Getting ready for the kickoff between these two teams. So we'll start off with our scouting report. Sam McQueen will give us the scouting report on the West Forsyth Titans.
Thank you, Ernest. As we all know, this West Forsyth team, of course, they've made it this far this year, so they're an outstanding team. It seems to be, though, that defense is probably their strongest point. They've allowed only 6.1 points per game this year. They've allowed 85 points in the entire 14 games, and of this, they had 6 shutouts. Their workhorses on the defense are the 2 tackles, Workman and Jeffries, and they should be the keys against the run. Their secondary has 34 interceptions, but number 4, Maurice Leggett, their leader, who has 9 interceptions, separated his shoulder last week in the semifinal playoff game, and he's going to see limited action at best. So that could be a point where Richmond could work on that defense. The things that seem to give the West Forsyth team the most trouble, first of all, is the fact that they can't sustain a long drive. It seems that all season long, they've tried to live by big plays. And of course, as we all know, anybody that watches football, if you live by the big play, you can also die by that big play. And I think also they have sustained quite a few penalties this year, so they're going to need to cut down on those penalties. The keys to winning this game for West Forsyth, first of all, they're going to have to learn how to control that ball and sustain some drives. We all know what can happen to a team that plays our Richmond Raiders that cannot sustain a drive. They've got to force Richmond to run to the inside. If they can stop that great little option play of Eric Thomas flipping it to Flip Ellaby, then they can possibly keep us running to the inside. And, of course, then Workman and Jeffries will take over and do the job from there. Also, they have a workhorse in number 7, Greg Bovender. Greg Bovender is a split end, a wide receiver, a punter, a defensive back, and he runs the ball also. So obviously it does quite a bit for West Forsyth. So I think probably one of the big keys for them is that Greg Bovender should have a good game. If they can pull all this off, then possibly they can beat our Raiders, but I honestly doubt it.
Well, Mac Patrick, you've got the scouting report on the Richmond Raider football team.
Well, the Richmond Raiders under Coach Barnes are 53-4, and the one thing that they do well is they win, and they do it by running the football. Flip Ellaby has run his way to the Observer's All-Piedmont Co-Player of the Year. We have Wendell Wells running, and of course Mike Thomas is an excellent runner in his own right. The things that have been giving Richmond County trouble all year is their inconsistency on defense and their kicking game. Both teams have shown up a good defense and a bad defense, and as of late it's been a good defense that showed up, so the defense has been giving them a little trouble. The keys for Richmond County winning this game is to be able to force the run of the inside game. The Raiders could be in trouble if the defense don't hold.
And we'll be back after this 2-minute break with our opening kickoff.
Thanks for recycling.
You're welcome. Yeah, I recycle. Right.
And also our listeners who are watching tonight and listening on Channel 11 on Rockingham Hamlet Cablevision, and our viewers tonight watching a tape-delayed version simulcast on Channels 11 and 27 Wednesday night. The State 4A Championship. And one thing we've noticed already, Stan McQueen, is a big loss the West Forsyth Titans.
That's right, Ernest. You know, I mentioned earlier when I was talking about the defensive strengths of West Forsyth that number 4, Maurice Leggett, was their leader with interceptions, with 9 interceptions this year. I had mentioned earlier that he had a separated shoulder and would see limited action. Well, as we were watching the coin toss out on the field, we noticed that Mr. Leggett is not even dressed out tonight. He's wearing his street clothes. So there is possibly the weak spot in the West Forsyth defense tonight, and I'm sure we're going to see the Richmond Raiders play on that spot.
And as you mentioned, they're very dependent on not only Leggett, but Greg Bovender, the other wideout. Well, the Raiders did not win the coin toss. It was won by West Forsyth. They declined. They will kick off. The Raiders will be defending the east goal and receiving the ball to start the game. The Raiders in their home uniforms of gold helmets, gold pants, and gold numerals on a green jersey. The West Forsyth Titans, white jerseys, gray pants, gray helmet, and dark green numerals. They'll be defending the west goal. And we're ready to start it off with three-peat time. The kick is long and deep. Eric Thomas will take it on the 7. Past the 20. He'll get down to about the 25. And there the Raiders offense will start 1st and 10. And that starting offense will be Michael Fletcher at split end. Chris Baldwin at left tackle. Left guard, Ashley Wright. The center, Brian Long. Right guard, Elvin Anthony. Clyde Smith, the honorable mention All-Piedmont team, Charlotte Observer, 73 at right tackle. Mike Johnson at tight end. Eric Thomas at quarterback. Wendell Wells at fullback. Flip Ellaby at the tailback position. And Lamont Baldwin at the flanker position. The Raiders start 1st and 10. They give to Wendell Wells up the middle. Gains possibly a yard. The initial tackle by the defensive tackle, Torrey Workman, number 70, who was a Shrine Bowl candidate.
That's right, Ernest. And, you know, as we mentioned, Workman along with Jeffries are the two workhorses. Quite a good name for the young man, a workhorse named Workman. These are the young men that are supposedly going to stop the Raiders on the inside tonight.
2nd and 9 for the Raiders, the second play of the game. I formation, the wideouts to the left side. Thomas under center. Option play, flips over to Flip on the outside. Initially hit, he will be dropped for a loss. The initial hit was, it looks, by number 99, Travis Workus. He is down by Gray Bovendere, a loss of a yard. And 2 as the official calls it. It'll be back to the 25-yard line. Brings up a 3rd and 11.
And that was an outstanding defensive play, Mac, by the West Forsyth defense. They were very deep into that backfield, and they were able to do something that a lot of teams hadn't been able to do all year, and that stopped Flip for a loss.
3rd and 11 for the Raiders. They come to the line, I formation. Baldwin split to the left side. In motion is Wells. The give to Wendell Wells. Maybe a 2-yard gain. The tackle by Antoine Jeffries. Jeffries, one of the defensive standouts, the 6'2", 125-pound junior. You talked before the game, Jeffries and Workman are the key to the defense. The Raiders looking at a 4th and 6, the ball on their own 30. Von Brown drops back to the 15 to punt. Bovendere on his own 38-yard line to receive. So the Raiders on offense first are initially stopped by the Titans. High snap, Brown, plenty of time, kicks, end over end kick. Bovendere watches, picks it up on the 39, fumbles the ball. It'll be picked up on the 31 by West Forsyth. And coming up with the ball, it looks like for Forsyth, number 41 on offense, that's Lee Brush.
And very luckily, I must say, too, that ball fell right at the feet of the Raider man that had made that block and tackle. And if he'd have just turned around and looked, he could have fell on that ball, and we'd have the ball way down in their end of the field.
There was a mad scramble for it by several players, but West Forsyth came up with it.
Forsyth offense comes to the line. Oscar Braun is the quarterback. Tailback Mike Keller. They go in a power I formation. Braun gives to the tailback, cuts through. Line on the left side, brought down by Wendell Wells on the Raider 42. And we have Kevin Myers, the fullback. Myers is a backup fullback, replacing Leggett. A gain of approximately 25 yards, 1st and 10, the ball on the Raider 42-yard line.
I tell you, fellas, that was an outstanding run around that right side. He found a big hole. Of course, that means there was outstanding blocking up front, and he was gone to the races. Thank the Lord that we got him down there before he got away. The last man tackled him.
Braun under center, a flag. Looks like someone lined off sides for either team. We'll see the call in a second. As we get that call, let's get the rest of the offense for the Titans. Bovendere is the split in. Addington is the left tackle. The penalty is on West Forsyth. Pete Taylor, the left guard. Mike Dahl, the center. Anthony Jenkins, the right guard. Chris Marshall is the right tackle. Travis Walkenbush, the tight end. Braun is the quarterback. Myers, the fullback. Mike Keller is the tailback.
And, Ernest, while you were giving that information, the referee gave us a little good information. The penalty was against West Forsyth, and we backed them up 5 yards.
8 minutes, 51 seconds to go in the first period. 1st and 15 on the Raider 47. They gave the fumble. Braun falls on it on his own 47. Looks like he was trying to give it to Keller and really could not put it in his gut.
He simply missed the handoff, and in so doing, the ball fell down. And obviously there once again, he just happened to be in the right place at the right time, or we could have had the ball there.
Well, now, we talked about it earlier in the playoffs. It's cold outside tonight, so I'm certain we probably see a lot of fumbles.
I think you're right, Mac, but as the game goes along, they'll warm up, and before it's over, they won't even care about the weather.
Myers, the only single back. Braun goes back to pass, plenty of time, drops back, pumps, goes over the middle, off the fingertips of his intended receiver. That was Robert Bonnet.
There was good coverage by the Raiders secondary back there. Forced him to look around for 3 or 4 receivers, and by the time he spotted one open, he was unable to throw it due to some pressure put on him.
They had that good pressure on him, and he checked off at least the first 3 receivers. He had to go to at least the 4th man. Luckily, though, he overthrew the ball a little bit because he was being hurried, because that man could have caught that ball if it had gone to him.
8 minutes to go in the first period. 3rd and 19. The ball on the 47 of West Forsyth. Braun under center. Once again, the Myers, the only back. The Raider defensive line jumps forward. It looks like it will be an offsides call, and it must have been the cadence of the quarterback because the entire front line jumped.
I mean, every one of them, man, it looked like just in unison. They all went at one time. There must have been some contact made down there as well. I did not see the ball be snapped, and as we know, for the defense to be offsides, there must either be a snap of the ball or some contact made.
Encroachment on the Raiders puts it back in Raider territory on the Raider 47-yard line, 3rd and 15. Bovendier and Robert Bonnet are split to the right side. Myers is a wingback position. Braun for Forsyth drops back. LaCroix McCray, and the little Utah pass is unsuccessful. Pressure by LaCroix McCray made Braun throw the ball initially faster than he wanted to. The old Utah pass here.
I'll tell you what happened then. I don't think that shuttle pass was planned in the beginning. He got such pressure on him that he had to get rid of that ball or it was going to be a sack. And he made the absolute wrong choice. As you can see now, we got the ball. Obviously, it was wrong.
Well, I agree with you, and the Raiders defense they have helped, and now West Forsyth forced to punt.
Bovendier is prepared to punt for Forsyth. Flip Ellaby back on his own 10-yard line. Bovendier, the high snap over his head. He's going to get pressure, but he doesn't kick off. And Flip will watch it die down. It hits the 10. It rolls down to approximately the 2-yard line. So disaster is ripped out of the fangs of the offense of West Forsyth. A 42-yard punt puts the Raider offense back on their own 2-yard line, 1st and 10. Let's give you the Titan defense now that Raiders are on offense. Travis Walkish, the defensive end, defensive tackle Torrey Workman, Flip Warren, the nose guard, Antoine Jeffries, the defensive tackle, defensive end Robert Winkler, Andre Musquain is the linebacker, Michael Murray is the linebacker, Lee Brush, split safety, Bovendier at cornerback, Leggett replaced by Brandish at cornerback, and Fred Transu is free safety. Raiders, high formation in their own end zone. Initial give up the middle is to Wendell Wells. No, it looks like Eric Thomas. Eric gains 3 yards to about the 5-yard line. Raiders on their own 5. 7.5 minutes to go in the first period. We have no score here on WYN.
You know, we mentioned earlier that Greg Bovendier should have a good game, and that would be one of the keys. Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know what the rest of the game is going to look like, but the scrambling he did to get that ball off, and then for that ball to be down on the 2-yard line like that, the young man's off to a good start tonight anyway.
We have an injured West Forsyth player. Looks like it is the nose guard, number 18, Philip Warren. And Warren will limp off the field. He's going to be replaced on the nose guard position. We'll attempt to give you the player's name. It looks like it's Antoine Bowie, the backup nose guard. The ball marked on the 4-yard line, so the Raiders looking at a 2nd and 9 on their own 9. Down to 7 minutes to go in the first period. Raiders on their 2nd possession. Baldwin in motion. High formation to give the flip up the middle, and he is stood up immediately. It looks like the tackle by Rich Winkler and Antoine Jeffries, the nose tackle on defensive end on the left side. Looking at a 3rd and 8 for the Raiders. Excuse me, Matt.
It appears that West Forsyth is forcing the Raiders to run inside and doing a good job of closing it up. However, looking at their defense, there's only a matter of time before the left side of the offensive line can open some big holes if they stay in that defense.
If they stay in the defense they're in right now, I think you're right. But, you know, like I said earlier, Workman and Jeffers, they're taking care of business inside there.
Mullen Brown and Baldwin on the left side. Eric drops back, throwing out of his own end zone, throws over it. almost intercepted by West Forsyth, excuse me. Andre McSwain, the outside linebacker, had his hands on the ball. It looks like Thomas was attempting to hit his wideout, Michael Fletcher, so Von Brown will be kicking at his own end zone. Looks like the turn of possession here will put West Forsyth in good field position.
I'll tell you, man, we're in about as bad a shape as you can be in back there now. He's got his foot right on the very back side of the end zone, and this doesn't look like it's going to be too good of a position for Richmond to kick out of. A low snap, and they're going to get the ball very close.
Low kick, Bovendero will watch it hit at the 29. It will roll out of bounds on the 31-yard line. So, 1st and 10 on the Raider 31. The West Forsyth Titans will come back to offense. Let's give the Raider defense. Darren Isaac, nose guard. Jason Dean at tackle with Tommy Hart. Hamilton at defensive end with LaCroix McCray. Lonzo Ratliff, outside linebacker. The interior linebackers are Jarvis Ellaby and Eric Crump. Eric Ellaby, the cornerback, with Sean Everett, and Charlie Patterson is free safety.
Well, halfway through this quarter, West Forsyth is winning the battle of field position.
High formation for West Forsyth. The give to Myers, the tailback. Hesitate, slips through. He'll be tackled by Sean Everett on the 30-yard line, a gain of 1 yard.
And that's the way you do that. You know, when they go around that end, if you can string them out, let him run 50 yards. If it's all sideways, who cares, right?
That's right, and the Raiders forced him down the line that time for no gain.
Good positioning by Eric Ellaby and Sean Everett to force that play from hitting outside for Myers getting. 2nd and 9, the ball on the 30 of Richmond for West Forsyth. They're not quite field goal range for their kicker, Mark Linder. Power high formation to flip once again to Myers, and he stopped at the line of scrimmage. And for the Raiders, that looks like it will be LaCroix McCray. An assist also by Alonzo Ratliff and Jason Dean.
You know, Mac, you talked earlier about that defense of the Raiders. I tell you, man, they're doing just what you said they needed to do. They're standing there on that line of scrimmage, and they're controlling it right now.
Right now they do, and the defensive line of the Raiders have a slight advantage weight-wise over West Forsyth. Pound for pound, it's 202 for the Raiders and 194 for West Forsyth.
3rd and 9 on the Raider 30-yard line for the West Forsyth Titans. Braun drops back, throws over the middle, is intercepted by Charlie Patterson. He has it down to the 30, down to about the 40-yard line. He'll be dragged out of bounds by the guard, Michael Anthony Jenkins for West Forsyth.
Great secondary coverage that time. Great secondary coverage. And the Raiders are on a roll now.
And, you know, not only that, he was able to pick out those blockers, and he got behind that wall of blockers, and, man, they opened it up beautifully for him. And I'd like to say one thing while we're here. I know those folks heard that yelling. You folks that are listening to us at home, you should be here. There's more people here than there are left in Richmond County tonight.
Approximately 8,000 people from Richmond County, about 2,000 for West Forsyth. The Raiders started this field position. 1st and 10 on their own 43. The flip back to Flip Ellaby. Flip gets to the outside, approximately the 45-yard line. And it looks like he'll be tackled by the linebacker for Antoine Jeffries and Rich Winkler. Gain of 5 yards for the Raiders. We've got 4 minutes and 10 seconds to go in the first period. We are scoreless on WAYN.
It's going to be exciting to see if West Forsyth can keep Richmond County from running wide and force them to run up the middle. I doubt that West Forsyth will be successful in that attempt.
Thomas, option play, flicks back to Flip. Behind him, the ball is loose. Flip will recover back on the 35-yard line. It'll be a loss of approximately 12 yards.
Man, I tell you, he just mishandled that ball. Flip it looked like he was running before he got the ball, and he really wasn't paying attention to the ball coming in. That happens to all good, sure-handed people every now and then. Well, 12-yard loss, we can make that up.
It was a quick pitch that we talked about last week. He did throw that pitch out there real quick. It wasn't like an option where he reads off the defensive end. He just pitched it out.
Yeah. 3rd and 17 for the Raiders, I formation. Brown split out to the left. Dropping back, Eric looking to screen pass up the middle, throws. Flip will take up the middle. He's got a wall of blockers. He's down to about the 46. It'll be about 7 yards short of a first down. Raiders will come up on a 4th and 7. They're on their own 47.
And let's give Eric a lot of credit on that one. He had 3 West Forsyth defenders closing in. I know he could feel their breath in his face when he got rid of that ball. That was an outstanding pass.
And for all the Raider fans, you'll notice that the man in motion is doing a different type motion than he's been doing all year.
Brave move by Coach Barnes here. It comes up the offense on 4th and 7. West Forsyth had Bovendere down on the 20, looking like he's going to accept a punt. And with that, West Forsyth calls a timeout. We'll take a 60-second break here with 2 minutes and 40 seconds to go in the first period with no score. Come back, Bob Brown nails the punt down to the 20. That's where Bovendere will take it, and he's tackled on the 24. Alonzo Ratliff for the initial hit. It's finished off by Wendell Wells. So West Forsyth will start 1st and 10 back on their own 24. And Mac and Stan, we found an interesting point here.
You know, Ernest, while they're changing sides here, my good buddy Bruce Harden, who seems to know all there is to know about football, and he has for so many years, as long as I can remember when I was a kid, Bruce knew everything. He told me that Coach Zeters, the head coach of the West Forsyth team, when he was at West Guilford, was on the coaching staff of Darrell Barnes. So these two men should know a whole lot about how they're going to play this game, since Zeters did work for Coach Barnes at one time. But Coach Barnes has learned a few things since then, I'm sure.
They give to Myers in the backfield. He's dropped by a loss by Alonzo Ratliff and Eric Ellaby. A loss of approximately 3 yards. The Raider defense is now pushing the Titan offense in the backfield.
You know, as long as that defense can keep that line of scrimmage moving backwards, they're going to keep dropping them for losses. And it looks like now that the Raider defense, when they're coming off that line, they're getting about 2 yards deep into the offensive line of West Forsyth, and they're not going to do anything with that kind of rate.
Braun comes to the line, power I formation. Giving to the tailback, Myers. Myers slips through. He'll be nailed by a tackle on the 31. And he's absolutely wiped out by Tommy Hart.
Man, that was a mean hit. Tommy took him off his feet, and the first thing that hit the ground was the top of his head.
That was Mike Keller on the carry there. It's going to bring up a 3rd and 3 for the Raider defense. The ball on the 32-yard line. He tried to separate his head from his shoulders there.
He almost did, yeah.
We have 1 minute and 12 to go to complete this first period. We are scoreless here on WYM. Coming to the front line, the power I formation with Myers and Keller and Browner. They give to Myers up the middle, and he's stopped by Alonzo Ratliff. Didn't even get to the original line of scrimmage. He stopped at the 31. That'll bring up a 4th and 3. And with no question whatsoever, Coach Dennis Zires of West Forsyth will punt the ball, and that's Bovendere once again. And Flip Ellaby will amble out to about the 35 of Richmond to accept the punt. Bovendere's had some problems with his original snap. It'll be interesting to see what pressure the Raider defense can put on now. 30 seconds to go in the first period. I snap again, and the Raider got a little bit of pressure on there. It looked like Eric Ellaby. The ball will nail down about the 41-yard line of Richmond. A 32-yard punt, and on the return exchange of possession, the Raiders will take the ball with 19 seconds to go in the first quarter. We are scoreless. We're glad you joined us here for the 4A championship here on WIN and, of course, Channel 11 in Richmond, Rockingham Hamlet Cablevision, and on tape delay if you're watching this on Wednesday night. A defensive battle. This is what we expect. Raider offense comes to the line. 1st and 10. I formation. The only single split out, Fletcher to the right side. Going in motion now is Baldwin. They give the Wendell Wells up the middle. Hits that initial wall and searches to about the 45, perhaps gained about 4 yards. Credit on the tackle for West Forsyth, the front interior line, Warren, Jeffries, and Winkler once again.
And you know, fellas, Wendell almost got through that big pile there in the middle. When this play ended, he was on his back going forward. He was really out of the pile, and they had him by the legs. If he'd have had about a half a step more, he could have been gone all the way for a touchdown.
And we'll take a break here, next 30 seconds. The end of the first quarter, we are scoreless on WYN, the State 4A Championship. Power I formation. Vaughn Brown, the extra back. Going in motion now to give the flip off the right side, bounces off, gets the first down. He's down to the West Forsyth 48-yard line. 1st and 10, and that is the first down for the Raider offense. And how often has that happened this year? We had to wait till the second quarter to see the offense go in motion.
It hasn't happened very often, Ernest, but I tell you there, and we've been talking all season long about Flip Ellaby, and we just can't seem to say enough about him. But like I said in the car on the way up here, watch out for him when he makes a 360-degree turn, and that's what he did then, and he got that first down. 1st and 10, Thomas Covington is the extra fullback for the Raiders. Fletcher split out to the right side. To give the Wendell Wells, no, it's the option. To give the flip. Good block there by Covington. Flip searches past the 35, down to the 30-yard line, down to the 27. And he's brought down by Bouvendier. Excuse me, he's brought down by Lee Brush. The Raiders, the deepest penetration in the Titan territory, down to the 27. The key to that initially looks like Flip looked inside, bounced out, but Thomas Covington with a nice block on the outside linebacker, which for West Forsyth was Andre McSwain. 1st and 10, the Raiders. Well, you know, there are two keys to that one. As you said, it was an outstanding block. We're there once again. Flip was able to get up through that hole and take them on down the line with it.
Ball run in for the Raiders now. He goes in motion. They give the flip up the middle, searches through, breaks down to the 20-yard line. And the initial tackle by Travis Walker all by himself.
Well, so far it's been a very defensive game. However, the offensive line of the Raiders is 219 pounds, and this defensive line they're playing against is only 194, and we're accustomed to seeing late in the third quarter, in the fourth quarter especially, the Raiders having their opponents worn down.
The Raiders now second and 5 on the 21-yard line of West Forsyth. Power I formation. Thomas Collins signals. Baldwin going in motion once again. They give the flip up the middle, falls Clyde Smith's block, and he's got the first down. He's down to the 11.
All right.
Nice trap play as we saw Clyde Smith come across from the left side and just cleared up an opening for Flip Ellaby.
You know, Ernest, you mentioned that it had been a long time since we saw the Raiders go with no first downs throughout the first quarter. Not only did they not get any first downs, they did not cross midfield. But it looks like all that's history now, doesn't it, fella?
10 minutes to go before halftime. We are scoreless. The Raiders surging deep in Titan territory. 1st and 10 on the 13-yard line of West Forsyth. I formation, the option play, the flip over the flip to the left side. Breaks through, jukes down to the 5-yard line. Bouvendier, an ankle tackle, or else Flip was in for the end zone. And it'll come up with a 2nd and 3 from the 5-yard line for the Richmond Raiders. The Raiders starting, and it looks like their offense is starting to click after an extremely dull offensive foray for both teams in the first quarter.
Well, I've noticed one thing. There's been a lot of ankle tackling, especially on Flip. They managed to get a hold of that ankle. That's about all they can grab onto.
Well, you know, that can't last all game long. Sooner or later, he's going to jump over that and score.
Give the flip, and initially tried to cut inside, but he's tackled by Workman. And looks like he's also brought on an assist by Andre Jeffries. Owens gets credit also. A loss of 3 yards to bring up a 3rd and 4. The ball on the 7-yard line of West Forsyth. The offense, they'll play the went to the option once too many times for the Raider offense here. And Richmond will take their first time out, and we'll take a quick 60-second break with no score in the second quarter.
Have a chance.
And we're back here, a big 3rd and 5 for the Raiders, trying to score on this long drive. They have the ball on the 7-yard line of West Forsyth. They tried the play to the left side, the option twice, not successful, and it's the reverse. Given to Fletcher. Fletcher initially, he fakes the pass. He gets down to the 10. He searches forward, still on his feet, tries the reverse position. He'll be dropped for an 8-yard loss down to the 12-yard line. looks like initially they had a problem with the initial exchange of the ball between Flip and Fletcher.
Yeah, Fletcher had gotten that ball cleanly the first time. I think he could have got around that right-hand side, and he would have been able to carry that ball on in. As it was, he didn't have the ball cleanly. He lost about a step or so, and then it looked like a razzle-dazzle sandlot mess in the backfield.
Richmond will try for the field goal kick now, and the ball will be held by Lee Shelton on the 18-yard line, of West Forsyth. So we're looking at a 28-yard field goal on the right hash mark. Thomas lining up the kick, the exchange, the kick is up. It has the height, it is good, and the Raiders take the lead at 3-0. So at 8 minutes and 7 seconds to go in the second quarter, the Raiders lead the West Forsyth Titans 3-0. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Receive is Bovindier for West Forsyth, and Eric pounds the ball down to the 2-yard line. Bovindier takes it on the 2, on the left hash mark, cuts back to the sidelines, has a lane. He's got a sideline, one man to stop him for the Raiders.
You know,
And
fellas,
he's nailed on the 30.
It's a good thing that was probably the best kick Eric's made all year, because if that guy would have caught that ball on the 30, he may have been gone for that one. As it is, they were able to hold him down to about the 30-yard line, so it worked out pretty well. I got to say, though, that's one of the best kicks I've seen Eric make all year long.
And that was Tommy Hart with that hit on the sideline if he was not there. That was off to the races for West Forsyth. Forsyth will have it first and 10 on their own 30. Once again, they'll start with a power formation. Myers is the last tailback. Now going in motion will be Walkenbush. In the eye, Braun kicks back to Myers. Myers hit at the line of scrimmage, maybe gets 1 yard. James Hamilton with a tackle for the Raiders. We're under 8 minutes to go before halftime. The Raiders lead 3-0 here on WAYN. And they're just standing the offensive wall of West Forsyth up. I'm talking about the Raider defensive line.
Yes, they are. On that kickoff, the Raiders pass up a golden opportunity to nail them deep, but they didn't cover that kick as well as they could have, so he got to bring it back about 25, 26 yards.
They're not used to having to cover kicks that deep.
That's true.
Coach Barnes has had a good strategy of having them to kick it short all year, and now they're going deep. So it's sort of changed their positioning on the field a little bit.
Second and 9, Braun drops back, throws over to Bovindier. He receives on the 50, spins free, and he is off for a touchdown. And it will be a 56-yard touchdown pass from Braun to Bovindier, and West Forsyth takes a 6-3 lead.
And like I said earlier, these West Forsyth players seem to live by that hot play. Of course, they made that one that time, but like I said earlier, when you live on that big play, you're going to die by it too. Sooner or later, that's going to cause them a lot of trouble.
64-yard touchdown pass, and West Forsyth takes the first lead. For the Raiders, it's not unusual. They've been behind in almost every playoff game. The only one which they were not behind, of course, the game against E.E. Smith. Their kicker is Eric Linder. He is lining up on the 10. He's a straight-ahead kicker. Bovindier is the holder for the extra point attempt. 7 minutes, 5 seconds to go for halftime. West Forsyth with a 6-0 lead. They'll attempt to make it 7. It's a very poor kick, but barely gets across. And we'll take a break here with 7 minutes and 5 seconds to go before halftime. West Forsyth leads the Richmond Raiders 7-3. We'll be back in 60 seconds. Lee Brush kicks an offside kick, picked up on the 30 by the Raiders, and breaking through is Baldwin to the 42. Number 29, Lamont Baldwin. The Raiders will have the ball first and 10 on their own 42, and Matt Patrick, a surprising big play, but that's what we expect from West Forsyth.
Yes, it was a surprise, but it was beautiful when he caught the ball. Instead of going out of bounds, he stopped, spun around, and our two defenders just went on out of bounds. Of course, that took them out of the play, and no one else could catch him.
The Raiders come up to the line, I formation. Baldwin, the wingback on the left side, goes in motion. The give, the flip Ellaby over the right side, breaks 3 to about the 45, and there'll be an unsportsmanlike, or maybe we'll have to see the call. Depends on
Possibly
the
a
official.
late hit.
Late hit, or maybe a clipping penalty. Could have been on the Raiders. We'll see. Flip got the ball to the 45, would have been a gain of 5 yards. And they're discussing the penalty with the officials right now. And it's a hold on the Raiders. on Elvin Anthony. Elvin pretty much got out of position there on the sideline, so that'll push the Raiders back to their own 30. They'll be looking at a 1st and 20. And there has been some little success from the Raiders when you look at long field yardage, particularly over 15 yards. Well, they're going to measure it from the point of the infraction, so it'll only be a 1st and 17. The ball on the 34-yard line. 6.5 minutes to go before halftime here on WYN. The Raiders find themselves behind 7-3 in the second quarter.
But like you said, Ernest, that's no big problem. The Raiders are used to coming from behind. It seems to make them play better. Let's see what happens on this drive.
Thomas Covington now to wingback position on the left side with Fletcher. Baldwin on the right side, I formation. The fake, Thomas drops back to pass. Plenty of time, throws over the middle, and behind his intended receiver, Fletcher, who was positioned on the 50-yard line. And one thing you notice, Eric has very little pressure there. Plenty of time to throw.
Very little pressure, had plenty of time to set up and throw that. It was just misconnection en route there.
Something to realize, that's his first pass attempt, and it's not unusual to try to aim the ball when you attempt to do that at the beginning of the game. My best example, I guess, of that was John Elway in last year's Super Bowl.
Well, you know, you guys, like you said, he was wide open. He did not complete that ball, but that's a good sign for things to come in the game. If he can stay wide open like that, we're going to burn him with that one before it's over.
2nd and 17 to the Raiders on their own 34. Eric drops back to pass again. Once again, has plenty of time. Rears back and throws over the middle and hits Fletcher on the 42. Fletcher drops back to his left, surges past midfield. He gets a 1st down on the West Forsyth 48-yard line.
Beautiful run after the catch by Fletcher. He had to choose which direction to go in. He went right into those defenders, slipped right under them, and got that 1st down.
1st and 10 for the Raiders. The tackle by Andre McSwain, the linebacker.
Thomas had a little pressure on him, but he was able to evade it.
Actually, good pressure in giving him coverage in there, and we just talked about the initial holding penalty on Elvin Anthony. Elvin dropped back to help give protection and was able to fend off the pressure from Travis Walkus, the defensive end. And it looks like we have an injured West Forsyth player.
And that injured player just happens to be number 70, Elvin Anthony, that you just spoke of. He may have fended off those Raider players, but one of them brought him down.
So far, Flitt, 9 carries for 63 yards. Well, actually, it's 70 for West Forsyth, and that's Torrey Workman, and if he has to stay out very long, that's going to be a big loss for that defensive wall, as Workman and Jeffries are the stalwarts. 1st and 10, the Raiders have their ball, now penetrating West Forsyth country. I formation, Baldwin comes off the line. Baldwin in motion. They give the flip up the middle, evades coverage, breaks through. Hand tackle by Jeffries. He surges down to the 30-yard line for another 1st down for the Raiders. And the big move there, Andre McSwain, the linebacker, just a little too late to get in on the play.
Outstanding run once again by Flip. He was mad at himself when he came up after that great long run. He hit the ground with his fist. He was mad. He wanted to score then.
Coach White just said, well, let's stop him from running to the outside and force him to run up the middle. I wonder what he thinks now.
Workman still out of that front of the wall. The Raiders will try to tick between the guards and the tackles here. 1st and 10. Lamont Baldwin in motion for the Raiders. They give the Wendell Wells up the middle, and Wendell gains about 2 yards. Tackle by Antoine Jeffries, the defensive tackle. That'll bring up a 2nd and 8. The ball on the 28-yard line of West Forsyth. We have 5 minutes to go before halftime. West Forsyth leads the Raiders 7-3.
And you know, Mac, you mentioned that that was what they were trying to make the Raiders do, and we talked about that at the beginning of the game. But I wonder, you were kind of joking when you said that, but I wonder if their coach may not try to change their strategy just a bit when they go in at halftime.
Power I formation for the Raiders. Now going in motion is Baldwin. They give the flip up the middle, goes behind Clyde Smith, and he's tackled by, it looks like, Torrey Workman, who came back in the game in that play. That'll bring up a 3rd and 8. They're going to say he lost, well, back to the original line of scrimmage. The ball is positioned on the 28-yard line.
Well, apparently at this point, Coach Barnes is not ready to take any big gambles and do anything out of the ordinary. Of course, he did try that reverse play. Maybe he'll have to go to his bag of tricks.
Fletcher and Covington split to the right side. I formation. Thomas under center. Looks around at a 3rd and 8. Option play. He'll keep. Marsh tackles him for a loss back to the 32-yard line. That'll bring a 4th and 12.
And you know, I think those Raider offensive linemen have gotten so used to that option working and him flipping it out to Flip. If you notice then, Eric ran into the back of one of his own men. They were expecting Flip to get that ball. Eric saw that option was shut down, so he tried to take it on in himself. And of course, once he bounced off of his own man, there were defenders all over him.
Raiders looking at a 4th and 11. The ball positioned on the 30, and they will go for it. They've had success in this, going to Fletcher, cutting across the middle. 3.5 minutes to go before halftime. Thomas drops back, rolls to his left. He gets pressure by Workman. He'll keep the ball. He dances down the sideline to the 25, where he's run out of bounds. It looks like Phillip Warren, the nose guard. So the change of possession will give Forsyth the ball with the lead and 3 minutes and 14 seconds to go before halftime.
Well, Workman was chasing after him then. If Eric keeps on running, eventually he might give out, you know, and Workman will just be ineffective.
I think you're right. You know, Eric, at that time, if he could have cut back inside, and of course he was forced out by Workman, but I saw a lane to the inside there. If he could have cut that ball back, he might have been able to get that first down on his own.
Power I formation for West Forsyth as they come up. The ball in their own 27. Give up the middle to Myers. Maybe a gain of 1 yard. One thing to note so far, no turnovers for either team. Both teams are susceptible to not only regaining turnovers, but getting them in the past. Under 3 minutes to go. We'll be looking at a 2nd and 8.
Well, Ernest, we did have one interception.
Oh, that's right. Thank you for the correction, Mac. The big turnover, the Raiders interception. That's one thing Forsyth is guilty of doing. And they are guilty of penalties, something that Stan alluded to in our pregame program. 2.5 minutes to go. Power I formation. Braun under center. And movement by the Raiders, and that will be number 42, which, as we know, as we look to our program, should be not there. We'll find out after a while.
Darren Isaac.
Darren Isaac, thank you. Darren has changed numbers on us twice this year, so keep track. That's going to bring up a 2nd and 3. Knew we'd get a number mixed up somewhere. 2.5 minutes still to go. West Forsyth leading 7-3 before halftime.
Well, West Forsyth had a little, well, they had advantage throwing the ball. Maybe they'll try it again and we'll pick off a few more.
Power I formation. Braun taking his time trying to milk the 30-second clock. Gives the Myers in the backfield, hit by Jason Dean for a loss, finished off by James Hamilton. That'll push it back to a 3rd and 5.
So we just might see that pass you're talking about on this play, Mac. And I hope we see the interception you were talking about as well.
Well, one thing I've noticed is West Forsyth is taking their own sweet time and coming to line of scrimmage. Looks like they're attempting to play very conservative. They'll be very happy to go in halftime with a 7-3 lead.
Obviously, that's the case. As you say, they're moving real slow. They don't seem to be trying to get the ball downfield. They look like they're content with a 7-3 lead, and that'll kill you against the Raiders.
To give the Myers in the backfield, he's dropped by a loss. And once again, it's Dean. And it'll be interesting to see if the Raiders call timeout. They have 2 remaining. We're at 1.5 minutes to go before halftime. Bovendieres will drop back to kick. And it looks like Coach Barnes will be content to keep those timeouts on offense. Plenty of time for this Raider explosive offense. We're down to 1:18 minutes. Bovendieres. High snap once again. No pressure on the Raiders. Kicks very short. Flip will watch it die down on about the 42, where it is down by West Forsyth. So with 1 minute and 6 seconds, the Raiders will have the ball and one last chance to score before halftime.
And you know, I'm looking now at a statistic here that's very unusual for the Raiders. On 3rd down conversions, the Raiders are 1 for 6. West Forsyth, of course, had 1 first down, and it looks as though we've got a penalty on this play.
And the kick will go all for naught, as roughing the kicker or hitting the kicker will be the penalty on the Raiders. If it is just hitting the kicker, it may be short to a first down. We'll see the measurement. Roughing the kicker will be automatic.
And they're giving them a first down.
15 yards, the automatic. So the ball will be marched all the way to the West Forsyth 48-yard line.
And do you think
first and 10?
Do you think that maybe now the West Forsyth coach, with 1:06 to go, and they're moving this much farther down the field on penalties, do you think he may speed up that offense and try to do something in this last minute?
Well, he uses his 3 wide-out offense. Single back, that is Myers. minute 4 to go. 1st and 10. The ball on their own 48 after the penalty by the Raiders.
He's going to try to pass this time.
Bovendiear in motion to the left side. He gives to Myers on the trap play. Myers breaks free. He's tackled in the backfield by Eric Ellaby.
And Eric took him down fiercely, I mean.
He was thrown down.
I guarantee you he wanted to let that young man know that he'd been tackled.
Well, the mistake, it looks like Myers is backing up instead of trying to go to the sideline. The clock is still moving, though. We're down to 30 seconds before halftime. It'll be a 2nd and 12, the ball on their own 46. And it looks like they're going to be content to one more play, go into halftime with the lead. Passing over the middle, attempting to hit his tight end, Workenbush, and he's got him down to the 30-yard line with 13 seconds to go. First down for West Forsyth. That's Workman with the first down.
He made a one-handed catch that time.
That was an outstanding catch, outstanding. But, you know, they're not quite in field goal range yet. We watched the young man kicking field goals here in the pregame. He kicked them consistently at 40 yards. It looks like now he'd have about a 45, 47-yard field goal. So they probably won't attempt to do that right now. With 13 seconds to go, we've got a timeout called right now.
60-second break with West Forsyth leading 7-3 over Richmond. And we come back. Braun hits Bovendiear on the 20-yard line. That does put him in range for a field goal. 8 seconds to go before halftime. That would give him a kick of approximately 38 yards, but the ball will be on the right hash mark. He did have some problem in practice from that angle. 8 seconds. West Forsyth has one timeout left, so they can go to the end zone one more time and have an opportunity to call the timeout, even a running play, but they will use that one timeout now. An interesting move.
I don't understand that. I think I would have tried to go into the end zone once more and then called that timeout with 3 or 4 seconds left. But, you know, getting back to the kicking thing, you know, we mentioned that he was kicking them consistently from 40 yards, but I failed to say he was standing in the middle of the field when he was doing that, too. He was not over there on that right hash mark. And Mac, as an ex-kicker, I'm sure you can let us know that there's a big, big difference depending on which hash mark you're on.
One thing you notice also we missed out coming out of break was a fine catch by Bovendiear. Got the 1 foot in on the left side. A nice pass just laid in by Braun.
Beautiful pass, yeah.
Just a 3-step drop, go to the sideline, the old sideline pattern you see on the NFL every Sunday night in the afternoon. 8 seconds to go. I think that with one timeout, it pretty much takes the decision out of Coach Dennis Zether's hands. He's got to go for the field goal here.
And as cold as it is, that ball is hard to kick.
Well,
but it looks like they're going for a touchdown instead of a field goal here.
They've got the 2 wide outs on the right side. Single back Myers. 8 seconds to go. They have no timeouts. Braun dropping back to throw. He's looking for the end zone. He's got time. He picks the ball. He runs down the sidelines. He's down to the 12-yard line and hit by Eric Ellaby. And it looks like Covington also, and that will do it halftime. That will finish it off. A questionable call by Dennis Zethers not to go for the attempt at the field goal. A pass play with, you got to give credit to the Raider defensive back and linebackers. They never gave him a chance.
No, Ernest, that wasn't a questionable call. That was a lousy call. There's no question in my mind that was a lousy call.
Well, he needed all the points he can get. And
South Carolina Shrine Bowl game, a 10-7 win, for North Carolina. That's been a rarity. And one day, we will set up so the Richmond team could possibly play in the Shrine Bowl and not have championships on the same day.
Well, you know, we've talked about that, and I really don't want to cut down anything the Shriners have attempted to do. They do outstanding work for the Shriner hospitals and the burn children's homes and all such things as this. I think it's an outstanding thing. I understand that the Shriners raised about $2,000 today for these children's homes, and I think it's a great thing. Although I do question the fact that they could play that game a week later, and then our young men from Richmond, who seem to perennially be in the state championship game, and therefore they miss this game. I'd like to see some of our players get in there, but you know, not just ours. We have 8 schools here for the championships, 1A, 2A, 3A, and 4A, and all of these players, if they had 2 players a team, that'd be 16 more players they could have on that team. I love what the Shriners are doing, but I question when they're doing it.
Well, you talk about the 2 best quarterbacks in the state, maybe perhaps the 2 best quarterbacks in the entire nation, and Heath Schuler, the 1A champs, Swainsville, and then talk about Burlington Cummings, great quarterback, Donnie Davis, and that's a name you'll hear about from years ago. Probably one of the best passers I've seen at a high school level. And these are 2 young men that each year have been in the championships. They have an opportunity to show off their wares in that really a all-star game for a lot of college coaches. Well, the Raiders will kick off here in the second half. Bovendere will be back deep to receive. Also will be Mike Keller for West Forsyth. Forsyth will be defending the west goal. The Raiders will be defending the east goal here at beautiful Keenan Stadium, surrounded by the trees and the lights. The tower campus is off to our left here. We're in the booth, slightly freezing. Eric will be kicking off from his own 40, and we start the second half. High deep kick. Bovendere will take it on his own 5. Goes up the left sideline, finds an initial hole, tripped and down on the 20-yard line.
I was glad to see that deep kick. We stopped them on the 25, and that's something we're not accustomed to watching.
That's right. We're used to watching the Raiders have their opponents start on the 35, 40-yard line. Back here on the 25, that's like we gave them a penalty on the first possession.
But then, of course, we aren't used to watching the Raiders kick off in the second half to start the game either.
19-yard return by Bovendere, tackled by Darren Isaac and Alonzo Ratliff. They come to the line, 1st and 10 on their own 24. The pitch back to Myers, off to the right side, cuts inside. Dean will tackle him on the 30-yard line for a gain of 6. Jason Dean, an assist by Tommy Hart, will bring back a 2nd and 5. They'll mark it between the 30 and 29. Bringing in the play now, number 18, which is Philip Warren for Coach Dennis Zeithers and his Titans from West Forsyth. Just opening the second half, the Raiders find themselves behind 7-3 and attempting to clinch their 3rd consecutive championship. Oscar Braun, the quarterback, inside of the fullback. Warren close to the 34. Looks like he may have the first down.
I believe he
Tackled
did.
by Patterson, and Patterson is hurt. Charlie Patterson down on the field, and they will call the trainer of the Raiders out to examine. He is still down on the turf. Well, now they officially give him the first down, the ball on the 35.
Well, Ernest, you said something about being cold here in the booth. I can tell you it's a lot warmer where we're at than down on that playing field.
One thing to keep in mind there, Mac, as we're talking about it, is West Forsyth finds himself now the worst possible place of the field. There's almost a huge divot of about 5 yards in circumference between the 35 and the 20 of West Forsyth. And that may give them some footing problems, Mac, if they attempt to run again.
Well, it's the only real rough-looking place on the field, and yes, they're snapping the ball, and the quarterback's standing on dirt.
Patterson walks off the field on his feet. That is a good positioning, good thing to see. Eric Thomas comes on the field now. Eric usually comes in as 5th defensive back. It was a surprise to us, him being named first team all defensive back, sharp observer, in the fact that he hasn't started a game all season. 1st and 10 for West Forsyth. Braun calls the signals. Giving to Myers up the middle. Myers surges forward. Eric Ellaby with a tackle, a gain of 3 yards, down to the 38-yard line of West Forsyth. Not really putting down Eric. Eric is probably the best prospect for defensive back in the nation, but maybe play perhaps the defense, maybe 10% of the season of time on defense.
Well, you know, Coach Barnes has said before, I think, that he feels that Eric has the potential to be the best defensive back there is. Maybe the people that vote for these things sort of took that into heart. I really think Eric should have been on the first team offense instead of defense, though.
2nd and 5. Braun drops back to pass, throws over, hits Bovendere on the 45. And that may be a first down. It's going to be about, well, it looks like he's probably got it. Just a simple down and out pass.
Right,
Very
close
close
to a first down.
A little quick pass. The guy just steps back 2 or 3 steps, fires it out quick, and it seems like the Raiders have had trouble all year with that type of pass. If they can put a little pressure on him, then he doesn't complete that pass.
1st and 10 for West Forsyth. Ball on their own 45-yard line, and for a team that we had stated has very little success in grinding out the yardage, they're starting the second half by doing precisely that.
Well, you know, I'd mentioned earlier in the pregame show that that was what they were going to have to do to have any success against this Raider team, and that is exactly what they've come out here at the beginning of the second half and doing. They've been running the ball off tackle and doing very well, 3 and 4 yards a clip.
Braun under center calling signals. 1st and 10. Gives to Warren. Warren runs out to the left side. He's dropped by LaCroix McCray. Drums through his feet. He'll be dragged down to the 30-yard line by Tommy Hart and Jason Dean. And Warren made a very unwise move when he was down on the 35 of trying to regain that yardage.
He should have laid down, yeah.
I'm surprised they aren't moving the ball back up around the 40-yard line and claiming he was down there.
The ball is on the 31-yard line, so that'll bring up a 2nd and 25. 8 minutes and 52 seconds to go in the third period. East Forsyth 7, Richmond 3. Forsyth now looking at 2nd and long yardage. Still in the power I formation. Dropping back to pass is Braun. Throws over the middle. Bovendieer wide open on the 48. He'll be brought down by LaCroix McCray on the 48, a gain of 17 yards.
And there's a flag on the play.
Go down, and it looks like it may be a face mask against Richmond.
If that is, that'll give a 1st down. We'll see if it was flagrant. But Bovendieer had no one within 5 yards. You'll have to fault the coverage of the Raider defensive backs. And the way the defense is marching back, that's precisely the call. And looks like face mask, it'll be 15 yards. And from the way he's slapping his helmet, you'll have to guess that perhaps that was either Darren Isaac or Jarvis Ellaby. We'll have to call Jarvis Ellaby. And into the Raider territory go the West Forsyth Titans. The ball will be 1st and 10 on the Raider 37-yard line. And penalties once again plaguing the Raiders.
A guy that burns you on a 69-yard touchdown pass, you don't give him 10 yards. You know, you do, he's going to catch that ball and tear you up, and that's what happened there. The defensive back just played too far off of him.
You don't let an offense get away from a 2nd and 27.
That's exactly what I said we needed to do in the second half, was keep a closer rein on him.
The pitch back to Myers. He's going to throw the ball over the middle. Got a receiver wide open down to the 5-yard line, and that's the tight end for West Forsyth, Travis Walkers. 1st and goal from the 7-yard line. Travis Walkers.
There once again, as I said, they're going to have to watch these men once they slip into that backfield. They're giving up too much space back there. Like Max said just a moment ago, there's not enough defenders around him. He was simply outran everyone else in the defensive backfield. They had to come up to him after he caught the ball. Those are the kind of plays that are going to kill the Raiders if they're going to lose here tonight.
Charlie Patterson back on the field for the Raiders. They're looking at a 2nd down and 7 to go for goal for West Forsyth. Power I formation. Braun under center. Gives to the fullback inside. A tackle looks like once again by Jarvis Ellaby. Tackle on the play by Keith Jones.
The defensive backs, there were 2 of them back there covering him that time, and they just let him slip right behind them because they thought it was going to be the run, and he's 5 yards open.
That's right. Like I said, you know, he just ran by them. They were playing a run. They didn't see him, or he was too fast or something, but by getting in the open like that, they're down here threatening now.
2nd goal from the 7. Cutback action to Warren. Warren will be dropped for a loss down to the 9-yard line. Tommy Hart, Alonzo Ratliff, Charlie Patterson, and LaCroix McCray. It looks like Jarvis Ellaby also. The ball's marked to the 9-yard line. That'll be a 3rd and goal for the 9. And we see Eric Thomas coming in as the 5th defensive back for the Raiders. You'll have to say West Forsyth is in at least field goal position in where they're at. 3rd and goal from the 9. High formation, the single back, is Myers. Braun under center. Calls the signal. Runs out, drops back to throw. Looking in the end zone, throws. Falling down the intended receiver, which was Bovendieer. The only man with a chance of the ball was Alonzo Ratliff. If he had gotten a step on that, it had been off to the races for the Raiders. That'll bring up a 4th and goal from the 9. So that means their kicker, Mark Linder, into the game.
And Bovendiear that time looked around at the referee as though he was expecting to see a flag thrown. I think he felt that the Richmond Raider defenders stuck their feet in there and knocked him down purposefully. Of course, it was only incidental contact, so there was no flag called. Good play all the way around by the Richmond Raider defense.
They're going to go for a 26-yard field goal by Mark Linder. This will increase the lead if successful to 10-3. Bovendiear is the holder.
And he's kicking from the left hash mark, and he'll have a tendency to pull that ball to the left.
Now on the 16th, you're really saying a 26-yard field goal. Bovendiear, the snap is up, the kick is up.
No good.
And it is
no good. Off to the left.
And that'll finish off here. We'll take a 60-second break with our score. West Forsyth 7, Richmond 3 in the 3rd quarter. Fumble, fumble, fumble. And then while you were away, a big, huge turnover for the Raiders. Flip Ellaby had searched for a first down, slammed into, it looks like, the split out Michael Fletcher. The ball split through. It was recovered by Rich Winkler, and the turnover, the fumble, gives West Forsyth the ball on the Raider 31-yard line. A huge turnover, another scoring opportunity for West Forsyth. I formation. Oscar Braun up to the line of scrimmage. Power I formation. He drops back to pass. Getting pressure by Hamilton. Throws. It's intercepted by the Raiders. Down to the 40-yard line. Down to the 45-yard line. And that's Charlie Patterson with his 2nd interception. And turnovers once again put the Raiders defense back off the field.
You know, Ernest, I was just about to say that could have been the play of the game. By that, I was meaning the fumble by Flip. Well, it did so happen that might have still been the play of the game simply because of that long interception and run back. Outstanding play by those Raider defenders.
That pickoff was caused by double coverage, and it looked like those guys had that thing planned. They lured him to throw that ball, and just a split time, and he come in and picked it off.
Somebody listened to us up here in the booth, and they heard that they needed to cover it a little bit stronger in that backfield. And there, of course, they were back there with 2 men that time. Beautiful coverage.
And we'll take a timeout with 5 minutes, 8 seconds going to the 3rd period. West Forsyth 7, Richmond 3.
Oh, what you got? Come on.
We bring you back. Flip Ellaby takes the ball, searches pass into West Forsyth territory. He's down to the 46, where he's brought down by Philip Warren and Lee Brush.
And you know, fellas, I don't know. We're a long way from the field, but I believe even this far up, I can feel old Mo changing around just a little bit.
I believe so, because that little run there was just flip up the middle and the whole offensive line going forward in one big bunch.
2nd and 3 for the Raiders on the 46-yard line of West Forsyth. High formation, Thomas under center. Give the flip once again. Off to the right side now, down to the 40-yard line. He'll have the first down, 1st and 10 for the Raiders. The tackle by Antoine Jeffries and an assist by Michael Murray. 1st and 10 for the Raiders. The big turnaround, and someone who's got a big chance. 2 leading candidates for play of the game tonight, of course. Bovendiear for West Forsyth and Charlie Patterson for the Raiders. 4 minutes, 20 seconds to go in the 3rd quarter. West Forsyth leads 7-3. Thomas under center. 1st and 10 on the West Forsyth 40. I formation. Baldwin split out to the right side. Fletcher to the left. Option play. Eric will keep it himself, still on his feet, down to the 37-yard line. Forced out of bounds by Bovendiear. A gain of 4. That'll bring up a 2nd and 6. And they're going to give him down to the 35. So Eric gave an extra little flip there to come across.
Well, he stuck that arm out there to get that ball out of bounds to gain that extra yard or 2.
3 yards at least, the length of his body, because they're measuring under the 34 now. 2nd and 5. 3.5 minutes to go in the 3rd period. The Raiders finding themselves behind. Power I formation. Baldwin will go in motion for the Raiders. They give the flip up the middle, down to the 32. That'll bring up a 3rd and 2. Tackle once again, it looks like Michael Murray and Travis Walkish for West Forsyth. And we see James Hamilton coming in on offense, and I cannot remember that happening the entire season. Excuse me, it is Chris Malloy.
You know, and now we're starting to see the Raiders that we're used to seeing. They're controlling that ball here suddenly on this drive. Like I said, that momentum shifted a little bit. The Raiders have regained that confidence that they may have lost just a little bit. And now they're running that ball off tackle, trying a few of those end-around runs, and everything's working for them just like we thought it would.
Comes into motion to flip over the right side, hitting the backfield, drop for a loss. And Torrey Workman, the Shrine Bowl candidate, and we've got an injured Raider down on the 30-yard line. Two tight end offense created some problems. We'll try to come up with the number of the injured Raider. But that's a loss of 2 yards. They'll bring up a 4th and 4, and Stan, just as you talked about it, the Raider offense on something we're used to them converting on, we're not successful.
That's right. You know, we usually see the Raiders come out ahead on that 3rd down play. That didn't happen this time. Of course, they're now faced with a 4th down and about 3 or 4 yards. Of course, we now have an injury on the field, and we cannot as yet tell who the young man is that is injured. We certainly hope it's not very serious, but as you can see, he is not getting up off the field right now. He seems to be hurt a little bit. I'm not going to say seriously. We see these guys jump up and run off all the time from these type things.
There seems to be some problem with his left leg, maybe his knee, but they moved it now, so.
2.5 minutes to go. I'm trying to scurry on who's on the line there and try to pick up who that possibly could be. It is not Eric. It is not Flip. It is not Lamont. It is not Mike Johnson. We'll have you the number in just a second. But it's a big, let's deviate from the injury. We will tell you it is in just a second. But let's look at, this is a big play. You're looking at 2.5 minutes to go in the 3rd period. The Raiders behind 7-3, and a lot of missed scoring opportunities for West Forsyth. They've got to convert here because there aren't many times you can load up the gun for West Forsyth and then start shooting empty like they have the last 2 times.
That's right. You know, if they don't convert this time, we could well see old Mo shift again. I certainly hope not. This injury time out here could be what the Raiders need to regain that composure that they lost.
Elvin Anthony is the injured Raider as he comes upon the field here. And that's a big loss on an offensive line that already has problems. We already know about George Burns out for the season after a car accident. The Raiders will come up 4th and 4. High formation. Baldwin and Fletcher will be split to the left side. That is the wide side of the field for the Raiders. And if you're trying to project a type of play, that would give more yardage for a quick runner like Flip or Eric in the situation.
I think you're right, Ernest, and I think we're going to see them run to that left side possibly. And I think we now have a timeout by the Raiders.
Well, we'll take a timeout here with 60 seconds and come back. The Raiders are behind 7-3 in the 3rd period of the 4A championship.
I had a high cholesterol and I had a heart attack. The connection is indisputable. Over 50% of...
And the Raiders will be stopped short of the 1st down. A 2-yard gain by Eric Thomas, and a 4th down situation unsuccessful. The ball will revert to West Forsyth, and once again we're talking about Torrey Workman, and now we know why he was a Shrine Bowl candidate. He has, on successive plays, shut down the runs of Flip Ellaby.
Well, you know, we spoke a lot in the pregame show about Mr. Workman and Mr. Jeffries. We haven't heard quite as much from Jeffries, but I tell you, this kid Workman is really a Workman.
Well, 2 minutes and 20 seconds to go in the 3rd period. 1st and 10 for West Forsyth on their own 32. Full I formation to give the Myers in the backfield. He's stopped by James Hamilton, scores through, and to finish him off is Alonzo Ratliff, and maybe a loss of a yard as he squirms to the midfield. And we're under 2 minutes to go. And possession of the ball is going to be increasingly important for both teams here if either one wants to be successful in being state champions for 1990.
Well, you know, we had talked about earlier that we thought this was going to be a great defensive effort, and it really seems to be. The Raiders are really shining on defense with the exception of one bad play, which was a fluke, I think. The Raiders have really done well on defense. They've stopped the West Forsyth team down on the goal line a couple of times. I like to see that, but we're going to have to score again in order to take this one in.
And one thing to keep in mind, the Raiders, because of indecisions offensively, are down to only one timeout for the rest of the game. Injury timeout, equipment timeout, as Alonzo Ratliff adjusts his chin strap. 2nd and 11 to give to Myers up the middle. Surges forward down to the 35. A gain of approximately 5. That'll bring up a 3rd and 7. Ball on their own 35. Darren Isaac in on the tackle. We're down to 1:18 to go in the 3rd period. It looks like the Raiders will go into the final quarter of the year behind. And this is getting precariously late. We've talked about close games for the Raiders throughout the season. This is getting a little too close for the Raider faithful. 3rd and 7. Full 4-eye formation. Braun drops back to pass. Looks and floats. He'll just run it himself. And he'll be stopped by LaCroix McCray on the 34-yard line. A loss of a yard. Darren Isaac also in on the hit, and that means Bovendere will be back to kick, and that means Flip Ellaby will drop back to about his own 35. We're down to 30 seconds to go in the 3rd period.
The secondary had very excellent coverage on that play. That's the reason that he had to take that little sack.
Have I sensed that Warts Forsyth has tended to be a little bit more conservative here in the second half? What do you gentlemen think?
Absolutely. They've got the lead, and they think they can take it in with the lead, and by being conservative, they'll be able to continue as they have.
Now the ball will bounce out on the 21, but Bovendere went down that time. A lot of pressure by the Raiders, particularly we're talking about Eric Ellaby, and looks like Sean Everett and also Alonzo Ratliff. And look, that could have been a roughing the kicker call.
It could have been, but of course there was no flag, so let's don't talk about it and hope they'll get the next play off before anybody mentions it.
Well, the Raiders will have it 1st and 10 on their own 20-yard line with 14 seconds to go in the 3rd period. If you want one of those long, sustained drives, time is becoming of the essence for the Raiders. Glad you're greeting us here at Keenan Stadium for a cold and chilly night, a clear night, no rain in sight, but a soggy field. The option play, the flip the pitch, over the flip, cuts inside, down to the 32. And he's going to be close. It looks like he does have the 1st down. 1st and 10 for the Raiders. Not by the tackle of Antoine Jeffries. Flip could have coasted for another 5 yards.
Very easily. He caught that ball, and he was into that open field. I'm telling you, once again, Flip was doing his consistent running. If not for that one young man, he would have been gone again.
And that will end the 3rd period with West Forsyth leading Richmond 7-3. We'll be back in 60 seconds with the final football period of high school football. Travis Walkish with a big turnover. And West Forsyth finds themselves in wonderful position. A big turnover here to start off the 4th period. Forsyth, once again, the Raiders give them an excellent scoring opportunity. We shall see if they are successful.
And that could well be the hinge of the game right there, fellas. They have got that ball down here on their 22-yard line. They're in field goal range already. They got 4 tries to get that thing into the end zone. If they score a touchdown here, it could be sad days for the Raiders. Let's hope our defense can rise to the occasion and stop them here.
Glad you joined us here on WIM, where sports is special. If you are watching on Channel 11 Cablevision or on tape delayed here on Wednesday night. Power eye formation, pretty much all that Forsyth has done to give the Myers up the middle. Hit immediately. Eric Ellaby, Jason Dean, and Alonzo Ratliff, and Charlie Patterson on the tackle. Got the ball to perhaps the 20-yard line, a gain of 2 yards. 11 minutes and 20 seconds to go in regulation. West Forsyth leads 7-3 in what's been a defensive struggle from the very beginning.
Well, I didn't see what actually happened on that fumble, but the guy had him around the ankles. Looked like he dropped that ball when he hit the ground.
Look, the way he twisted, he just released and dropped the ball by Eric. 2nd and 9. And movement of the Raiders will be offsides, and that's the 2nd time tonight encroachment will be called on the Raiders. And you'll have to say it's perhaps the cadence of the quarterback, Oscar Braun, because everybody on the front line, Isaac Dean, Hart, Hampton, LaCroix, McCray, they're all coming across.
Exactly. That must be the cadence. There's nothing else that would make the entire front line jump at one time like that.
And that's a big change. You go from a 2nd and 9 to a 2nd and 4 as the ball is on the 15, and that's something you've addressed already that increases the opportunities for a field goal.
Exactly. They're not thinking field goal right now. They got a 2nd down on their own 15, on the Raiders' 15-yard line. They're looking to take this ball into the end zone right now.
Power I formation, Braun under center. 2 fullbacks, 1 single back. Gives back, and in the end zone, the drop of the ball. LaCroix McCray with the initial hit on Alonzo Hairston.
Well, that took him out of field goal range.
Well, it's only going to be marked to the 20, so a loss of 4. That will bring up a 3rd and 9. This is going to be a big defensive play for the Raider defense.
You know, fellas, we talked about turnovers meaning a lot in this game at this point. We may not be aware of the fact that the Raiders up to this point have been penalized 6 times for 52 yards. That's quite an interesting statistic that means a lot to this game.
3 encroachment and 1 roughing the kicker. 3rd and 9, the ball on the 20-yard line. Braun under center, drops back to Plants. Plenty of time. He's looking for the end zone. He throws across the middle. The ball is short, and attending to hit is receiver Robert Bonnet.
And it was probably good that that ball was thrown short. There were Raider defenders all over him, and it could possibly have been an interception.
Pressure by Darren Isaac and James Hamilton will bring up a 4th and 8. And a field goal here, you're looking at a 37-yarder. And already we know Mark Leonard, the kicker for East Forsyth, has some problems, but the ball is placed more to the center of the field, perhaps 5 yards within the left hash mark. Ball is spotted on the 27. That will be a 37-yard field goal. Big field goal here. If the Raiders can stop them here, they can at least take the lead with a touchdown. The kick is up. It's a fake. No. He tries to run, and Ellaby will stop him on the 21-yard line. An excellent fake there, but it looks like if you talk about the play, Bouvier never had a chance. It was a fine snap, so that was a fake all the way.
It was definitely designed to be a fake, but it didn't fake any of the Raiders out. They had him down before he ever knew what was happening.
And for the 3rd time tonight, the 3rd time, West Forsyth has been within the Raider 20-yard line and has come up absolutely empty.
So obviously that shows just how strong our Raider defense is. Now, all we need to do is come out here and score 1 touchdown, and we can put this thing away. We know our defense can hold. We've got to have our offense come in and score right now.
9 minutes, 44 seconds to go into regulation. The Raiders 1st and 10 on their own 21 to give to Eric up the middle. Flops forward to the 24-yard line. The tackle by Lee Brush, the cornerback.
Well, apparently they have no faith in their field goal kicker. And that first one we talked about when they tried to kick it there at the end of the half, they just have no faith in the young man.
It sounds like to me that you're right. You know, you mentioned that to us when we were on break, and Ernest and I said, no, just poor decision. You said, well, obviously they don't have any faith in him. Well, I didn't believe you then, but after seeing this, I believe you now, Mac. They don't.
Either that or they're very afraid of this offense that the Raiders have.
2nd and 7 for the Raiders. I formation. Covington goes in motion. Option play. Eric pitches out the flip. He's dropped for a loss on the 18-yard line. The tackle by Lee Brush. The Raiders will be looking at a 3rd and 13.
And
that was well defensed.
Somebody that time did not pick up their man because both the quarterback and flip were covered well. No matter what Eric would have done, that option play could not have worked.
Well, the option has been totally unsuccessful all night if you look at it. The best successful Raiders have been out of the I formation between tackles with flip. And my question is, how long is Coach Barnes going to have to wait until he starts putting in the air? There is an idea of desperation, but the one thing in their favor is West Forsyth, as we mentioned, is not a possession team. So the Raiders will get another chance at the ball. But how many times can you give West Forsyth the ball on the 20-yard line? Eric drops back to pass. He's going to get pressure. Runs out. He's going to keep it under wing. He surges to the 20-yard line, a loss of 2 yards. He's tackled once again by Lee Brush. That's 3 straight tackles by number 15, Lee Brush. And that means the Raiders will have to kick the ball. And it has to be opportunities given to West Forsyth the entire night. Something interesting, if you watched any of the programs the last few days, particularly on Channel 8, the defensive coordinator, Dave McConnell, said Richmond was the best team he's played this year. He looked at the film. Von Brown to kick. Dropping back. Gray Bovendere on the midfield stripe, the 50-yard line. 7.5 minutes to go in regulation. Vaughn kicks it end over end. He'll trace Bovendere back. It'll hit down on the 32, roll dead on the, well, we'll see if they'll mark it on the 32 or the 30. Actually bounce back towards Raider territory. 31-yard line, a 46-yard kick by Von Brown, possibly one of his better kicks of the year.
A real good kick, but you know, getting back to that Raider offense, we said at the beginning of the game that what West Forsyth liked to do was shut those outside runs down and force them to run up the middle. That's what they have done beautifully tonight. They have stopped that very, very effective option that we've talked about all season long. It's been absolutely ineffective tonight.
7:26 to go in regulation. West Forsyth leads 7-3 here on WAYN. Braun comes to the line of scrimmage. Power I formation, gives to the fullback up the middle. Eric Ellaby with the tackle. Mark Keller got perhaps 2 yards. Perhaps he has the ball to the 33-yard line.
And you know, fellas, excuse me, I'm sorry, Ernest, but you know, we had talked about a little bit about when do we start feeling desperate? Well, we're down here now to 6 minutes and 46 seconds to go in this game. I don't think the Raiders have ever actually felt desperate all season long, but if this thing goes 2 or 3 more minutes, they're going to feel that for the first time this year.
Power I formation. Braun under center. Crossbook action. Dropped down by Sean Everett is Mike Keller. Ball is going to be measured on about the 36-yard line of West Forsyth. Well, I'm almost getting the feel of the game similar to the Cornell Swift game. It's almost a lull in the team. And it's like it's not quite there. And the first half of the 71st game, it just reminds me quite a bit of that. We're down to 6 minutes to go. The Raiders dream the three-peat. They're going to have to do something in the next 6 minutes.
They're going to have to come out and pass the ball on offense, I believe, to get back in this ball game.
I think you're right.
The ball on the 36. The give to Alonzo, Hairston, and he'll be stopped short of the first down. Tackled by Darren Eisen. So the Raiders should get the ball with just under 5 minutes to go, and then you're looking into a crucial possession.
This is probably the most crucial possession of the game coming up here. The Raiders are going to have to, as Max said, put that ball in the air some. Obviously, that outstanding option play is not working well for them, and Workman and Jeffries are able to close up that inside, so we're going to have to see what happens here.
Bovendere kicks short. It'll die on about the 38. Flip will take it on the 31 and just lost his footing on that wet patch we had mentioned earlier, the ball down on the 34. 5 minutes and 13 seconds to go on the short kick by Bovendere. And a very chancy recovery there by Flip, because he could have easily lost the ball there. And what you hear in the background now are the 8,000 plus who have driven up US 1 in 15.501, the Keenan Stadium. Flip Ellaby motions up to stand up. 5 minutes, 6 seconds to go in the dream, the three-peat for the Raiders. Having the ball on their own 34-yard line. They give the flip up the middle. Surges forward to about the 37.
Well, we're going to check the character of this team. The Raiders, if they have any character, they're going to do it now.
Tackled by Winkler and Walkus. That'll bring up a 2nd and 7, the ball on the 37.
I was just handed a statistic by our great statistician, Jerry Milton, who we failed to mention tonight. The Raiders have not had an initial possession inside West Forsyth territory all night. On third down conversions, the Raiders are 1 for 7. West Forsyth is 2 for 7.
The fake dropping back to pass. Eric, he'll keep it and hold it down. He goes to the sideline. He maybe gains a yard, maybe to the 38. That's going to bring up a 3rd and 5.
He wanted to pass that time. He hesitated, and he had a receiver out there open all by himself, and a little hesitation there whether to throw or run, and of course he chose the wrong one.
You're right. I think he should have chosen to throw that ball, but of course we're 3 stories up in the air, and we can see the whole field a whole lot better than he can.
Well, we're under 4 minutes to go, and this is a crucial possession. The Raiders are going to have to convert to get a first down, or else their dream to three-peat, the 3-in-a-row dream, will be over.
The biggest down of the game right here, fellas.
3rd and 7, the ball on the 37. Wendell Wells in motion. Eric drops back to pass. You can look at that screen up the middle, throws high. Flip takes it on the 40, breaks through, down to the 45, still on his feet to the 50, surges through. He's got a lane down to the 40-yard line. First down, Raiders on the West Forsyth 40.
Well, there's a flag play back at the 40-yard line.
That may be a lineman downfield. We will see. And that is what it will be. The penalty is on the Raiders. It will be a lineman downfield. That happens so often on a screen pass.
That's right. You know, when that quarterback stays back, it takes him a little bit of time to get ready to throw. Those linemen just can't stay put for so long, and they take off downfield when they think the ball's been released, but it hasn't yet.
We had to look at it because where Flip picked it up on about the 39, all of his linemen had already cut downfield, and that was the pressure because Eric had to pretty much make a jump pass.
That's right.
Lineman downfield is the call. Loss of down for the Raiders, and we're down to 3.5 minutes to go. You talk about playing close to the vest. It's going to be 3rd and 12. The ball on the 32-yard line. Still looking at 2 chances to pick up the first down, but your options are becoming severely limited at this point.
That's right. You got 12 yards to go now and 2 downs as opposed to 3 yards to go. We're going to have to see the ball go up in the air.
Is this a situation where you try to pick up the first or set up on the 4th down to go for the first?
I think you try for it now.
Flip in motion. Pass over the middle to Chris Malloy off his hands. We're down to 4th and 12. Folks, this is it. The Raiders ever get an opportunity to repeat, it's down to this play. If they do not convert, it is over. And here's an interesting decision by Coach Barnes. He will not go for it on 4th down. He is sending the punting team on the field.
And you know, he's relied on his defense all night long. It looks as though Coach Barnes once again is going to rely on that defense to do something here in the last 3 minutes of the game.
Don't forget the fake. That's always a possibility. 4th and 12. 3 minutes, 4 seconds to go. Bovendiehr on the 35-yard line. There's a penalty on the play. Brown kicks deep. Bovendiehr will take it on his own 25. We'll see what the penalty is. Interesting move for Bovendiehr to call the fair catch. He should have let the ball hit and let time run.
That's right. If he'd have let that ball hit the ground, that clock would have kept running. And, of course, there would have been much more time off the clock than there is now.
Motion penalty on the Raiders, so they can make Richmond kick it again. That's exactly what West Forsyth will do. 2 minutes, 57 seconds to go. And the Raiders' options are getting thinner and thinner at this time.
That's right. You know, and if the Raiders do go down tonight, and I'm not giving up on them yet, we still got 3 minutes to go. But if they should, I'd have to say that there's 2 major factors, and that being, of course, turnovers as well as penalties.
Well, you look at it, all estimates, there should be at least 3 more field goals or at least 1 more touchdown on the scoreboard for West Forsyth. It could be a lot worse. Motion penalty means that he'll be kicking on his 12-yard line. Bovendiehr back at his own 37. Brown kicks, and it shanks it just a little bit. Bovendiehr will fair catch again on his 40. And they'll mark it on the 41, and again, I questioned that. That knocked all of, well, we're measuring about 9 more seconds. We're down to 2 minutes and 51 seconds to go. And let's remember this when we talk about the Raider defense. They're down to 1 timeout. The Raiders can only stop the ball 1 time. You do not have the 2-minute warning in high school football that you have in professional football.
That's right. You know, this West Forsyth team can keep this ball with 1 first down. They can run the clock out. But it looks like we're going to have to count on our Raider defense coming up with the big play here.
Well, you try to strip the ball. You usually leave it open for long runs or passes for the opposing team. Excuse me. Braun gives him the fullback, Marsh. Hit by Tommy Hart on the 42-yard line. Just keep you apprised of the time. We're at 2:35. The Raiders, because of offensive difficulties, had to use 2 first downs. And boy, that looks like a mistake right now.
The biggest mistake of the night, possibly.
We're down to 2 minutes and 22 seconds to go. They're going to use all 30 seconds. They're going to wind it down. So you're looking at, if the Raiders stop the ball, if they can't keep them the first down, at most they may get the ball with a minute to go. Power I formation. Braun under center, pitches back to Myers. Myers searches forward, tackled by James Hamilton on the 45-yard line, a gain of 2, and we're under 2 minutes. So they don't have to snap the ball to about a minute. No, they're going to call the timeout.
We have an injured player on the field. He's a Raider.
Well, interesting to see who we can pick up on that. You hate to say a fortuitous injury, but it stops the clock. Of course, the Raiders don't want anyone injured. Minute 53 to go. The defending 2-time champs find themselves behind 7-3. And what is exactly what we built it to be, a defensive battle here on WYM. And it must be an injury of the upper body as we see the legs down. We'll try to fix the number for you just as soon as we can. We'll keep it here because we are at the very end of the game.
Well, it has been a very defensive game, and except for one big play for West Forsyth, of course, that pass play, and you kind of expect that when two great defenses get together.
Well, the big play, and that's been the key to their offense all year long. And, you know, I heard a lot of people during the entire week saying that there was no chance that the Raiders would lose. All they did was show up and win. Folks, you never heard us say that, and it never was a comment.
When you get this far along, fellas, you know, there's no bad teams left. The two teams left have won 4 straight, so they can't be bad to get this far.
Well, whether it's not the 49ers playing the Pony League team, there's a chance for any team when they get
Exactly.
on the field.
The Rams beat the 49ers.
Well, Jarvis Ellaby is the injured Raider, and he was coming off and seems to be grabbing his midsection here. Let's set the situation. The Raiders still have their one timeout. West Forsyth will come up. We're looking at a 3rd and 8. Minute 53 to go. And when they do get the ball, if by chance they can stop West Forsyth, and that's a big maybe, they're going to be looking at anywhere from 70 to 60 yards yardage between them and the end zone.
It's going to take air time, I guarantee you. But, you know, I'd like to say something if I could. We've talked all year long about the great team, and we've talked about the band. Let's say a little bit about these Raider fans. You know, they've stuck with this team all the way this year, and win or lose, these Raider fans are the greatest fans in the world.
Braun under center, power I formation for West Forsyth. Crossbuck action to Myers. He's dropped in the backfield by Darren Isaac and Covington.
So the Raiders are going to get the ball back, it looks like, with about a minute and 15 seconds to go. If you were Coach Barnes, fellas, what would you call now?
You got to pass. You've got to look to Fletcher here.
Well, I'd let him...
Forsyth content to take his time. Bovendier back on his 30. Flip Ellaby on the 25-yard line of Richmond County. Ball's kicked with a minute 11 to go. It's kicked away from Flip. It will die on about the 30-yard line. So with a minute 4 to go, minute 3 exactly, Richmond gets their last chance, the last opportunity to attempt to three-peat, 3 championship. But win or lose tonight, this team can leave with their head held high.
You're right there. There are no losers in this game.
One timeout is all Richmond has in a minute to 3. Raider offense on the line. They've decided what they want to do. Wendell Wells, the single back. Eric runs back, looks to pass, throwing deep, plenty of time, still looking, throws across the middle and overthrows Fletcher. Fletcher wide open on the 45 of Richmond. We're down to 52 seconds. And you've got that prevent defense by West Forsyth.
And I don't really understand that one. That young man was wide open. Eric threw that ball way, way over his head. That should have been a completion, but like you say, they're playing that prevent defense. They're going to give them 10, 15, or 20 yards. There's a long way to go downfield and a very short time to get there, so they can give up 15, 20 yards in a clip. It's no big deal.
I think Eric had the indecision. He wanted to hold the ball up and run, but he knew midfield they then used their final timeout. 2nd and 10 from the 30-yard line, 60 yards separating the Raiders from a state championship for the 3rd consecutive year. Thomas running out. He's getting outside pressure. He runs to the 25, going to the sideline. Leads to the 41, 1st down, 44 seconds to go. Now he's 60 yards, eliminate the Raiders from attempting to tie or go for the win.
And I think Eric redeemed himself just a little bit on that one. He decided to tuck that ball and run and immediately ran for the out of bounds, knowing that he could stop the clock.
Well, let's don't forget he's one of the best running backs in the state of North Carolina.
Pressure by Torrey Workman forced him to cut out and not attempt the pass. 44 seconds to go. West Forsyth 7, Richmond 3. Ball in the Richmond 42. Thomas under center, Wells the only single back. Flip in the slot back position. Eric drops back, he's being forced out again, throws across his body, attempts to hit the receiver, is incomplete on the 49, attempting to hit Flip there. We're down to 37 seconds, 2nd and 10.
And that ball was very close to being a reception. It was a trap, but I tell you what, in a lot of leagues, they wouldn't have noticed that, and they would have called that one a completion.
Well, once again, you're talking about the situation of Eric having to throw running to his left, and you're having to twist your body. You can't put that much force behind it. 37 seconds to go. It's a tight one, folks. And the Raiders are going to salvage them. They're going to have a big play here. They're almost limited to the pass play here. 1 timeout remaining. West Forsyth 7, Richmond 3. Eric drops back to pass. rolls out, throws across his body, overthrows once again Fletcher. They're down to a 3rd and 10 with 31 seconds to go, and once again, rolling to the left, you have a problem with accuracy. Your release point is so high, and what's happening is Eric is either throwing high or low.
And that time, and of course the previous time, it was way, way high. Like you say, though, he's throwing against the grain. He's running in one direction, throwing back in the other one. It's hard to get the ball off at all.
And they're going the sideline patterns. They have the one timeout, maybe up the middle. It may be a region where it may be open. West Forsyth is dropping a back down about 20 yards back to the prevent. High formation, 3rd and 10. Eric drops back to throw, rolls to his left again. Getting pressure, throws across his body, incomplete. And folks, with 25 seconds, we're down to the last possible play of the Raiders. And for 3 consecutive plays, Eric has rolled to his left. I'll have to question that kind of pass play.
I honestly think a good call that time would have been to run the ball off tackle. You would have caught them off guard. They were looking for that pass play. We've got a timeout left, so they could have run that ball, gained 15 or 20 yards by catching them off guard, called that timeout, and then had a chance to go for that long play.
And we'll take a timeout here. 4th down. Richmond behind 7-3.
Thanks for recycling.
You're welcome. Yeah, I recycle. Brought in a bunch of aluminum cans, even some foil and some old lawn chairs. You know, most people don't realize all the things aluminum recycling can do for us. Money? Hey, sure, that's great. But it also conserves energy and natural resources, helps the environment, and saves landfill space. That's a real plus nowadays. Do your part. Recycle aluminum.
For an aluminum recycling center near you, call toll-free 1-800-228-2525.
Fourth and 10 for the Raiders. Ball on their own 42. It's the last gasp, the last effort. Flip Ellaby, the single back. Thomas gives it up the middle to Flip. He breaks through. He's got the first down. He's to the 35-yard line, but the clock keeps moving. 18 seconds.
And that's the play they should have called the time before. If they would have done that then, they'd be down there with a few more seconds on the clock. But let's don't second guess. We're down here now, 18 seconds to go. The clock was stopped by the movement of the chains, so they still got their timeout.
They've still got a chance, 18 seconds. They've got the wall, the FORSYTH 43-yard line, throw out of bounds to stop the clock. 14 seconds to go. It'll bring up a 2nd and 10. And Stan will have to agree with you. That play was possibly called one play too late.
Too late. You know, if they'd have called it one play sooner, they'd be downfield. They'd have one more down to go. Like I said, though, I'm not going to try to second guess them. We may come out a winner yet. This is a heart stopper, though, folks. I tell you what. I've been biting my nails all year, but I've bit them down to the nub.
In July, they thought I had a heart attack. I might need some nitro before this is over.
Flip is the wing back. The ball on the 34-yard line of West Forsyth. Johnson over to the left side. They may have a chance for 2 plays here if the ball's on the sidelines or if they go for the end zone. Eric rolls back. He's getting pressure in the backfield. Steps up. He's throwing deep. And it's almost intercepted through behind Lamont Ball, and we're down to 7 seconds. One play is all that's left. It's come down to one play for Richmond. They have 34 yards to go. One chance, one opportunity if they're going to default and hand the throne of champion over to West Forsyth. And that pass was woefully about 5 yards behind his intended receiver. And my question is, he threw it to him on the 5-yard line. He could have been stopped there, and that would have been the game. They've got to go to the end zone.
He's got to throw it in that blue where it says Tar Heels. If he throws it anywhere short of the goal line, the game's over.
Baldwin on the left, Fletcher on the right. Flip in the split back. Eric drops back about 7 yards. He's getting pressure. He rolls forward. He's got one chance to throw the end zone. He throws deep to the end zone, and it's off the rim. The game is over. The game Heading back to finish off this most impossible win.
Hi, how you doing?
Look what I do in school today, Grandpa.
The harp. The aorta,